So I guess for me, sport has always been a cornerstone of my life, whether it be football or rowing or cricket. You know, I was one of those kids that, did my best at any sport that I tried. For me, it was a childhood dream to have played AFL for Geelong, and I got to live that dream. And it was a journey that, it didn't just happen overnight. It was certainly hours and hours and years of training and dedicating some time to that. Not only from me, but my parents used to do a 3-hour round trip to get me to and from training when I wasn't at boarding school, just so that I could have the opportunity of playing AFL. In 2008, I got to do that. My dream came true. I got drafted to the Geelong Cats, and I was very lucky that I got to make my debut. And it was a really special time to run out onto Etihad and experience that. But it wasn't long after, and I did my first knee reconstruction. It was against Richmond, and I can remember it so vividly. I went up for a mark, and I would have done it literally 1,000 times before, and I just landed awkwardly. And I remember getting up to try and tackle someone, and I just had no power or no agility, and I knew that it was pretty bad at that stage. And that was a moment where I was just completely lost, to be honest. I'd always had this pathway of playing sport for my career. I didn't really think about too much else. I tried hard at school, but that was only so I could give sport the best opportunity. After a brief AFL career that was a childhood dream that was over very quickly, I'd been lucky enough to be able to take clients over Kokoda and Kilimanjaro and to Mount Everest Base Camp, Mont Blanc, and all these amazing destinations whilst I had a gym in Melbourne. And there was one particular, I call him a friend because that's what he was. He wasn't just a client. We were on our way to Everest Base Camp, and we were with a group. We had to head descend because he was having a little bit of an altitude issue. We were in pretty much the side of Mount Everest. We're deep into the Himalayas. It was 3 a.m. in the morning, and no helicopters could fly, and our only option was to descend. And we were heading down, and this guy was his jovial, funny self, but could noticeably see something was wrong. It got to about 3:45, so we'd been hiking down for about 45 minutes, and then he all of a sudden, lost any control he had over his speech, and then all of a sudden he couldn't walk, and it's just this time frame of about 2 minutes that just drastically changed my whole perspective on life. At that moment, he passed away. I remember being in the helicopter and just making this promise to him. He was a type 1 diabetic. And that was our first charity trip, was back into the Himalayas to raise money for diabetes. And that kind of set me on a path, and to try and inspire and motivate people to get uncomfortable, to think bigger. I think we need to start thinking about the big picture rather than the insular life that so many of us lead. I want people to think about being uncomfortable and then empowering others within their communities to do the same thing, because I think there's a lot more opportunity in the world if we start all developing these skills. Since then, we've been able to help with schools deep in the Himalayas that were affected by the earthquake. That was a pretty amazing experience with a local school from Hobart to go over and give aid and education and redevelop schools and paint schools and really give back to a community that don't have a lot. We are so lucky here in Tasmania and to live the life that we do, that I just feel like I need to be giving to the community more. I feel like if we all think like that, the world is going to be a better place.